I first heard of Witcher 3, it reminded me of how much I hated Witcher 2. I was asking myself, why is there so much hype surrounding this game? Like, really? I mean, Witcher 2 sucked. It sucked. I mean, at least I thought it sucked. I mean, Witcher 2 had broken maps, no health portions you can use during combat, stupid stealth parts, and a handful of unbalanced difficulty in combat. I really wanted to like Witcher 2 Assassin's Creed. I love the RPG setting in medieval times and Renaissance or Renaissance time. It involves knights, mages, kings, queens, and most of all, it's dragons, motherfucker. Witcher 3 being set only to be released on the newer consoles and PC, I was thinking, how could they possibly fuck this up? I mean, it's the next gen Witcher, right? Are they gonna fuck it up? Will they fuck it up? The answer is, after playing it, no. They did not fuck it up. This game is incredible. Incredible. Fucking amazing. The graphics are amazing. The story is awesome. And yes, finally, the difficulty is balanced. But let's get on to the review. I'm going to do a simple breakdown about what's good about it and what's bad about it. First off, let me start with the graphics. The graphics are just sick. I mean, what impressed me the most about the graphics are like the foliage. You're seeing grass, trees moving, leaves moving in the grass. It's just amazing. It's just literally the first couple of sessions. You're seeing all the grains moving around in the field, and the frame rate is not that bad either. Most impressive thing, I'm a big fan of storms. I like looking at storms and tornadoes, and hurricanes and shit. In this game, there's a forecast system. You can see when a storm is about to hit. And when it does, man, it's beautiful. I mean, the trees are swaying back and forth in the backdrop, in the background, from miles away. Not really up close to you. It's just beautiful. This game has like one of the most beautiful weather effects I've seen in any game. Then again, let me talk about the story. The story in Witcher 3 is pretty good. The side quests are the best parts of the story. This is one RPG I played where the side quests are actually better than the main quest. The story and the side quests are way more interesting than the story and the main quest of the game. And in the main quest, dealing with the main quest of the game, the story, I really didn't care for it too much. But I'll get onto that later. But the story of the game, I'm gonna tell you what it's about. It's pretty much, uh, you know, what the hell is this guy name? It's been a long time since I played this game. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot the lead character's name. I think it was, can't remember the lead character's name. I mean, this is like a loose review anyway, not really that formal. But I think his name is Geralt or Gerald or Geralt. And yeah, I think I got it right, Geralt. I like to say Geralt or whatever. And he's got his own camp going. He's training a Witcher. He's got it's an older Witcher there, and that's kind of like his superior. And then there's a really young Witcher there. I think her name is Ciri. She's really young, and then something happens like called the Wild Hunt, and she gets kidnapped. And now, the main quest of the game, the reason why Geralt takes off on a great journey is to find Ciri and and save her and see what happened to her. And he's pretty much coming up with all these clues and getting all these leads about where Siri might be. And it's kind of like a big detective game, and in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways it feels like that with the detective. Geralt's got like a detective mode where you press a button and like all the hints and clues will like be highlighted, and you have to really comb really carefully to try to find these minuscule clues that will give you a lead to where anything that you might be investigating might be. So you could be hunting for a monster and everything, and that's like I said, the side missions in this game are really good. I mean, the side missions involve hunting for monsters that are like terrorizing little towns, and I think one of the best side missions in the game is the missing woman and I'm trying to think what was it about the missing. It was like a mother of a family. She was you know, being enslaved by these witches, and it was really sad and really intriguing. I thought that was one of the best, side missions in the game, and one of the earliest side quests in the game. I was like, damn, that was so good. And you have to make a really critical decision in the game that will decide her fate. And I thought it was really deep, and this, like, wow, they really did a great job. The developer of this game, great job. So moving on, another thing I want to talk about is the gameplay. What you'll be doing in Witcher 3 is pretty much fighting. That's all you'll be doing is pretty much fighting here and there. Most of the time, 90% of the time, fighting. 10% of the time, talking. Maybe I should change that. It depends what you decide to do, what mission you choose. So the combat system, when you're actually playing a game, is pretty much you got to block. You can block, attack, you can parry. It's a sword fighting game, so you can block, parry. And the combat is a little bit more visceral than Witcher 2. Hitting a enemy at the right time, you will see you can cut off limbs, cut off heads. It could be just a bloody mess, and it's really satisfying to see that stuff because it's realistic because that's what sword fighting combat, close quarters combat is like. It's very bloody, brutal, nasty. It might make you want to throw up a little bit. You might cut a guy's stomach open, and his what he ate yesterday might be all over your body. It's just disgusting. So, but no, you're not gonna see no stuff like that. Innards coming out or anything. But it's pretty gory here and there. Heads coming off limbs. You can cut bodies in half. And stuff like that. It's really visceral and satisfying here and there. If you like, I like my games violent. I like them realistic. I'm not sick in the head or demented or anything. I just like my games realistic, and that's what sword fighting game should be like, realistic. Now, moving on about the gameplay in the game. The difficulty finally seems balanced. I remember in Witcher 2, I tried to play this game on normal. I got my ass handed to me. And then, later I put it on easy. It just seems like easy just was not more different than normal. I mean, the problem with Witcher 2 was, of course, you could not use health potions during combat, which suck. Why can't I use health potions during a fight? I want to run away and rebuild my health. That's the idea of a fucking video game. I'm supposed to be, you know, have the ability to rebuild my health here and there, and the other guy's not supposed to. You know, every game should have that. Every RPG, should have that. Even in Bloodborne, they have that. Come on, you can Dark Souls, refill your health, in the middle of a tough fight or something. For some reason, Witcher 2, they decided no, and that really caused a lot of the game's problems. Was really the culprit of the game's problems in a way. But in Witcher 3, lo and behold, they finally decided, we're gonna let people, refill their health during combat. You know, we're just gonna get rid of that idea. No health potions can be used during combat. And I gotta say, it makes the game, way more playable. I don't get as frustrated as much during combat. And before I track up on a mission, I like to, I'll buy me a significant amount of health items. Your health items can be either, food or potions, but most of the time you're gonna be, if you like using health potions a lot, most of the time it's gonna be food because that's what they mostly sell. Like food, like fruit and bread and you know, depending on what item you're buying, whatever food item you're buying, you know, the the potency of how much health you'll get back, depends on what, food item you're buying. So if you're buying bread, I don't think it rebuilds your health for about like 20 seconds, but it seems slower. But if you buy something like a apple or a tomato or something or a pineapple or something, it seems like the recovery time is slower. But if during that time it gives you more health back. But I'm going on too much about that health ship. But all in all, you can use health items in combat, and it makes the game better, way better than Witcher 2. Makes it less frustrating. Now, what else? Oh yeah, there's no. I've noticed in Witcher 2, there's no stealth parts. I guess in Witcher 2, they decide, okay, let's try to put some stealth stuff in there. And a lot of times I got frustrated with stealth crap in Witcher 2 because they just didn't do it right. You know, this is an RPG. They just didn't do it right. You couldn't take cover behind walls. Your map system sucked. There was no radar. There was no way to distract guards or anything. You just have to, blind fire. Just, make sure, your guard is not right there or something. And, but, in Witcher 3, there's no stealth parts. There's no stealth uh, integrated into the game. Maybe that was a good idea because you're not going to do it right. Maybe you shouldn't just do it at all. And that's what the developer, I guess that was the mentality of the developer. And, Witcher 3 is an awesome game with no self crap in there. Thank you. Now, another great thing about this game, it's very long. There's like over, man, I put 60 hours into this freaking game. There's a lot of content, a lot of great, content in the game. And the difficulty is balanced, so I didn't really have to grind or do anything. A lot of times I would, in most RPGs I would grind, to get more powerful. But in this game, I didn't need to grind at all. I kept the difficulty on normal mode, and wow, I was actually, most of the time the missions were, balanced. The difficulty was balanced, and there was no, hard parts. I think there was very challenging parts, but no really hard parts. Challenging parts that made me think and okay, what tactic should I use? Okay, and everything. But I didn't have to grind in this game at all. It's actually an RPG I played. Like man, never had to grind. I'm very happy I didn't do that because I hate grinding. I think the difficulty is very balanced, and I hate grinding. I think that's just a waste of time grinding. I should not be working in a game. I should not be doing it. Sure, I know, like I said, the side missions are really good. One of my favorite other side missions were the fist fights. In Witcher 3, there's like fight clubs and fight tournaments you can get involved in, and you might come across, some fights that are a little bit too tough for you. So you might have to take a break, go and do some, other side missions. Go through, two or three of the, 1,000 other side quests there are. Because there are a lot of side quests. There are a lot of variety in this game. It's an amazing RPG. And, come back and, fight, Bobo Jackson, who kicked your ass last time in this fight club. And, this time you beat him. He's a level 56. You're a 44. And, you beat him, by not even being a 56. You just went up a couple of levels, and your jabs and punches, your right hooks and left hooks got stronger. And, And of course, during a fist fight, you can't take any health items. Of course, that just wouldn't be fair. Idea is just like a tournament or something. But that was another cool side missions in the game. You can just travel the whole world. Getting into these fighting tournaments and these not tournaments, yeah, but just like these random fights and everything. The work to be the champion. You might just be running through town. Oh, it's a fight club going on. I want to be the champion, so let me go beat this guy. And then when you beat the guy, your word gets out there, and then you you receive challenges from other fighters or other boxing promoters and everything. The first thing you do is talk to the bookie, and he gets you in the fight, and it's pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool. It's a shirts off fight, so your shirt's always going to be off. And yeah, Geralt's got a great physique. Great abs, great pecs. So sometimes the other fighters are a little bit fat and flabby, but Geralt's a well definition guy. So moving on. Uh, what didn't I like about this game? One of the things I didn't like about this game is sometimes that it seemed like the enemies sometimes had a little bit too much health. Like they seem like they're a little bit too overpowered sometimes. Not in the terms of how they hit you, but like, in the terms regarding pretty much how much damage they can take. I mean, you can probably take about 10 hits and die, but sometimes the guy you're fighting, the enemy, he can take up to 25 or 30 hits, and and still be holding on to health. And that got kind of annoying after a while, but it didn't really hurt the game that much. You just had to roll a lot, and sometimes you might find yourself fighting one enemy that's a little bit, he's just sponging a little bit too much. And moving on. Another thing I didn't like is the main story. It's kind of boring. Main story was a little bit boring. It involves Siri and everything chasing her around. I'm like, damn, man, would you just hurry up and find Siri? But after a while, there's some parts in the game where you can actually play a Siri, so you actually do somewhat know where Siri is. But it's just, like they're going, they're switching characters from, just like they did in Witcher 2. But this time you only switch between Siri and Geralt, but you don't really play as Siri that much. But yes, you can tell Siri is way more powerful than Geralt. She's got like these incredible magic abilities where she can just move lightning fast and appear behind enemies in like a blink. So another thing I didn't like about this game was there's no houses or anything to kind of like to just just retire and to just like, okay, you know, if you have a lot of items, there's like a weight system in the game, so you can't carry, a certain amount of weight. I guess depending on your strength or something or whatever. But a lot of times, I found myself over encumbered or overweight, and I just what I would do, I would just go to one spot in the game roll. I would drop these items right here, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna take a picture so I'll remember where these items are, because I might want to come back, I might want to use them, I might want to sell them. You're gonna find some really good swords, some really good armor here and there. You're gonna be changing armor a lot. Also to mention, you can get haircuts and change Geralt's look and everything. And on the top of that, the way I'm going to conclude this review is pretty much Witcher is one of the best RPGs I played in the last 5 years or 10 years. It's definitely up there. I don't come across a lot of good RPGs. This game is definitely better than Dragon Age. It's better than so many other developers that try to attempt to make an RPG like this, but it's just repetitive and just run of the mill. But Witcher 3 is definitely one of the best RPGs I've played. Great combat. The story and the side missions are great. Great, item management system, merchant, system. Buying and selling goods. It works. Got to mention, also the map system is better. Witcher 3, I'm gonna give this game a 9.5 out of 10. This game, a 9.5 out of 10. This game was amazing. A 9.5. Yes. Really enjoyed this game. Play this game if you're an RPG fan. A lot of people are going to be hating on this game. What is a Witcher 3? Who do they think they are? No, this game, blah, 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 blah. But don't listen to it. Play Witcher 3 if you haven't played it and you call yourself an RPG fan. This game is amazing. Amazing. Fucking amazing. 9.5. I'm out. I am out.